Hello everyone, welcome to yet another day in this clown decade, the decade where things are only going to get worse before they get better. However, once again, being at the midpoint of this decade, we are now seeing things get slightly better now that we are getting fed up of absolutely everything getting worse. So in today's video we are looking at Doctor Who, because it looks like it's coming to the end of its second run, finally. An awful lot of people think, me included, think it should have died about a decade ago at this point. But alas, it had remarkable staying power, to be honest. Ncuti Gatwa's Doctor Who future uncertain as actor is on verge of quitting. Sex education actor will appear in his second season as the Time Lord later this year, and it may be his last season. Doctor Who star Ncuti Gatwa is on the verge of quitting the series as he looks towards his next move, according to reports. The 32-year-old sex education actor made his debut as the Time Lord in December 2023, and his second season is expected to air later this year. I don't know why they keep calling him the sex education actor. Surely by this point he should be more known as the Doctor Who actor. Christopher Eccleston literally did one season of Doctor Who, and he's mainly known as a Doctor Who actor, to be honest with you. Anyway, Russell T Davies, who rebooted the cult series back in 2005, returned to write and executively produce the new seasons, which marked the first time Doctor Who was aired internationally on Disney Plus and on the BBC in the UK. Yeah, and back when he did reboot it, with David Tennant making a short return as the Doctor along with Donna Noble, I watched the first episode of those specials, and I, like most other people in Britain, thought, what the hell happened? I know of basically nobody who actually enjoyed it. I'm sure there are people out there who did, but really, it's a very niche audience that Doctor Who is after these days, and it's not a particularly big one. Hence, well, we're getting stories like this quite constantly, and from what I understand, the rest of the specials and the rest of the season, and from the clips I've seen of it, made absolutely no effort to improve on this whatsoever. Russell T Davies has effectively lost his talent for writing good and cohesive stories, and is now effectively falling back on, oh, what's the particular social agenda that I can write about this episode, and let the viewer know who and what is bad and why. Rather than what used to happen, which was just creeping a monster, how's the Doctor gonna get out of this? Which was way more entertaining. And typically are the fan favourites. Fan favourite episodes, Dalek versus Cyberman. What was the political commentary in that? Well, there wasn't really any, to be honest. The Barbie actor, I don't know what's the Independent's obsession with referring to him as the actor that was in this for, but okay, is already believed to be looking toward the door, with potential plans to relocate to LA for Hollywood roles. The Independent has contacted the BBC and Gatwa's representatives for comment. The show's bosses have reportedly postponed making any decision on the matter until his second season is aired later this year. The cynic in me here, I think, is saying, well, Ncuti Gatwa probably didn't have too much interest in Doctor Who, and mainly wants to get this role, want to camp it up with Russell T Davies writing the episodes, and to, yeah, effectively to get a good rung on the ladder to get an international audience and end up in LA to act there. That's what the cynic in me is saying here. I've never seen anyone leave a show so quickly for any other reason, apart from obviously for Christopher Eccleston, but they were very personal reasons from what I understand. A source told The Sun, Ncuti doesn't want to be tied to the series beyond this and plans to relocate to LA with several Hollywood projects standing by for him. As I say, it was a jumping off point for him to get to Hollywood, which makes the whole of the last season even more cynical. I can't imagine any improvement this season, to be honest. His team also see a lot of fan backlash from series and don't want the perception of him still being the Doctor to get in the way of any future works. They added, the show has been poorly managed in recent years, and there's a lot of people who've been working on the show for years and now being cast aside due to the poor leadership. Sounds like there's trouble in paradise. Yeah, because it's being produced by Bad Wolf Studios, I think they're called now, and rather than the BBC producing it, they obviously subcontract it, and this seems to give them a lot more, well, creative freedom, which appears to have been what killed the show. Because while watching the show, you could clearly see that CGI and all that had clearly improved to the old episodes, which I actually watched last year, and they were all pretty good. It doesn't really at all make up for the fact that, well, the writing's just got terrible, and basically everyone agrees with that. So that's what we know of Ncuti so far. However, the BBC responds to Doctor Who Axe rumours in a rare statement. The sci-fi show is due to return later this year, which everyone expected. So a BBC spokesperson said that the speculation is incorrect. The sci-fi show is due to return later this year with its 15th season of the new era. Though the Sun reported that it could be the last set of adventures for a while after claiming the series would go dormant once again due to low ratings. So it is being axed. They're just saying on a technicality, there will be more episodes, just the amounts that you were always expected, because the deal with Disney Plus was that there would be 26 episodes, that's about 2 seasons, and so we're getting the second season later in the year. The rumours have been denied, however, with a BBC spokesperson confirming to Radio Times that the broadcaster wouldn't make any decision on future seasons until the next one had aired, saying the story is incorrect, Doctor Who has not been shelved. But it very well could be. We just can't say it is yet. That's fine. As we previously stated, the decision on Season 3 will be made after Season 2 airs. The deal with Disney Plus was for 26 episodes, and exactly half of those still have to transmit. As for the rest, we never comment on Doctor Who and future storylines. Fair enough, and it goes on to explain how Ncuti Gatwa is the star, and will be returning with Ruby Sunday, played by Millie Gibson, who was in the last season, and a newcomer, Belinda Chandra, who is played by Varada Sethu, in an upcoming season. And if anyone's wondering who that is the Indian woman who was in Andor. So, she's a good actress, that's all I know. Will the episodes be good? I doubt it. And the thing is that an awful lot of people are kind of taking this as, oh, there's no way they're going to renew it, because for over a year, we kept seeing news stories with things like this. The BBC has addressed concerns about Doctor Who's Series 14 ratings, pointing to shifts in viewing habits and noticing the stronger performance in delayed viewing metrics and the under 35s demographics. Which are all basically copes. Oh, people aren't watching live TV. Yeah, fair enough. Oh, it's mainly for the under 35s demographics. They, put it on in bed when they sleep. Yeah, alright. However, they had no excuse this year, as Doctor Who unfortunately experienced its lowest overnight ratings to date, dipping to 2.02 million viewers. The 7-day catch-up figures also saw a series low of 3.38 million. Russell T Davies previously acknowledged the drop, stating, "They might not be the ratings we'd love. We always want higher." However, Davis highlighted the younger audience growth. The audience no one ever gets are the under 30s. They just don't watch TV anymore, but those figures are astronomical for Doctor Who. It's their top programme in that bracket. And from pictures I see of Doctor Who conventions and people I see going to Doctor Who conventions in real life in the past, the type of kids going there are let's say the right-on ones. I see an awful lot of rainbow flags, trans flags, what have you. It's more a LGBT group meetup than a Doctor Who convention these days, from what I've seen. And while it may be astronomical, they've basically captured that niche of, the 5% of young people, and they're riding with it. But you have that 5%, you alienate the 95%, no wonder your ratings are so low. So it's like, it's a cope, basically, from Russell T Davies. It's, oh, I basically wanted all the young people who were gay to watch my show, and I've got it. Okay, you've alienated people like me, despite the fact you made some of my favourite shows when I was younger, so thanks for that. Anyway, because it's in this niche, you are going to be seeing articles like this everywhere for the next few weeks. Doctor Who needs to be woke, and there's a reason every sci-fi fan should agree. Doctor Who certainly has its problems, but wokeness isn't one. Despite the fact that in polling constantly is an example of political correctness gone mad, or wokeness, whatever, Doctor Who is something that everyone points at. Again, when David Tennant returned, pretty much everyone I knew who was a fan of Doctor Who watched it, and they were all basically asked, what the hell was that? Because, yeah, it's gone ridiculously woke, the writing's gone absolutely atrocious, and people watched it thinking, what am I watching? And it just made them instantly disinterested. There were people who've never used the term woke before that said to me, I now understand why people call things woke. All because of that one special. So, like clockwork, every few months there's been an uproar about Doctor Who being woke and how it's ruined the show. Well, yes, funny that. This time it's been claimed that the long-running sci-fi, helmed by Russell T Davies, has been shelved, in part due to dwindling ratings, resulting from fans' fury over unspecified woke storylines. Are you kidding me? The first special. Again, I went through it with a friend of mine on the channel whenever it aired last year. And something I'd point out as being particularly woke is Donna Noble was not allowed to ever know who Doctor Who was ever again, otherwise she would literally die from her brain exploding. Anyway, that doesn't happen, and what's the reasoning for it? Because she's a woman. Oh, interesting. Oh, she also had a daughter where some of the doctorness went into that. Sorry, a son. She had a son where some of the doctorness went into him, but then he went trans, and then it's like, oh, he's a woman too, therefore he can just let go of the Time Lordiness. None of it made sense. It was all nonsense, and it was all basically just to say, yeah, women better than men and trans people are superheroes. That was basically the whole story. And that's why a lot of people said, right, I'm understanding what people mean when they say woke now. It was that bad. People who have never used the word before started using it. The BBC has described this report as incorrect, stating Doctor Who has not been shelved, though it's not been renewed either. The thing is, the argument that wokeness has ruined Doctor Who is not only predictable, boring and lazy, it's also nonsensical. Doctor Who certainly has its problems, but wokeness isn't one. Go on then. First off, we need a definition here to be clear on what we're talking about. Yes, fair enough, woke means all sorts of things, I totally agree with that. The idea of being woke has evolved in recent years and now has a particularly negative connotation. By the way, that is an absolute vibe shift. Woke now being a pejorative is absolutely a vibe shift. No one uses it as a kind of label of pride anymore, like they did in 2018. No, woke is nothing but negative now. It's often used to refer to people viewed as oversensitive about political and social issues. Right, again, specifically, they are very left-wing about it, though. That's the specific part. But as its base level, being woke refers to the idea of being aware and attentive to important issues, especially social and racial injustice. Yeah, again, what they've done is basically told you what the Mott and Bailey of being woke is. They've not done a bad job there, to be fair to them, but they need to make it clear that being aware and attentive to important issues, that is the Mott, and then the Bailey, i.e. what they really mean, is effectively race, gender, communism, effectively. Looking at that definition, it's not exactly groundbreaking to argue that Doctor Who has always been woke. Again, kind of. There's certainly been some episodes with more political commentary, but all of the fan favourite episodes, you know, the ones with the Slitheen in, The Empty Child, The Weeping Angels, those are just the few off the top of my head. They are not episodes that are overly aware and attentive to important issues. They are just fun. They are creepy monster, the Doctor has to find a way to beat them. And they're great. So going off that, given that the fan favourite ones rarely have this social commentary in, perhaps Doctor Who actually doesn't need to be woke. Anyway, they say it's pretty obvious, but we'll say it again for those in the back. From its very inception, the show has always depicted Doctor Who fighting against tyranny and oppression, and oh God, and it has always been aware of current culture. Too many of the storylines to count, both in classic and modern Doctor Who, have covered poverty, evil empires, capitalist greed, and more. Yeah, famously, I think it was a Sylvester McCoy storyline, you know, when Doctor Who started going downhill the first time around. They had a baddie that was effectively supposed to be a riff on Margaret Thatcher, and from what I understand, it wasn't a particularly well hidden one. It has always been progressive and inclusive for its time. Lest we forget, the show was initially made by a woman ahead of her time and initially directed by a gay man. I mean, I decided to just quickly look this up to fact check this. I don't really care about the directed by a gay man. In the 60s he would have been closeted anyway. But initially created by a woman. So it was created actually by a number of people, including male Sidney Newman, male Donald Wilson, and male staff writer C. Webber. One woman who did heavily contribute to the development of this series was Verity Lambert. But look at all these names. To say it was initially made by a woman ahead of her time is a bit of a misnomer. A woman was certainly involved, but women were involved in the BBC in the 60s anyway. It's not particularly unique in that way. So, long story short, this is cope. Also, even if both these things were true, why then is it such a big deal that a gay man is playing Doctor Who now and a woman played Doctor Who before him? Well, technically before David Tennant, but you get my point. You know, granted it was the 60s, they wouldn't be announcing that a gay man was directing it. But a woman making the show, that would have been seen as, you know, that probably would have made headlines to some degree. And yet it's not one of those things that's awfully talked about, because, well, basically it's not true. The article carries on. In fact, criticism angled against Doctor Who has often shown why we need its inclusivity and representation so much. Okay. I'm not being funny, but Doctor Who was originally shut down back in the 80s because it just went garbage. It just wasn't fun anymore. People weren't watching it. The sexism we saw when Jodie Whittaker was cast as Doctor Who shows exactly why we needed a female Doctor Who. That's Very interesting logic. The racism which Ncuti Gatwa had faced as the first permanent Black Doctor? The first permanent Black Doctor? What does that mean? Was someone temporarily black? Was heartbreakingly unsurprising, proving why we needed him. The homophobic comments against the gay kiss in Rogue, though it was far from the first same-sex kiss of the show, spoke for themselves. I don't know why this article is pretending that it's 1958. But who cares if there's a gay kiss on TV these days? There's a gay kiss in every programme, it feels like. And also, I didn't see many people have an issue with there being a black Doctor Who. I had an issue with Jodie Whittaker becoming the Doctor because it was effectively shoehorned in that regenerations can lead to a change in sex of any Time Lord. And even what they did with that storyline is absolutely ridiculous. Doctor Who becomes a woman, all of a sudden the storyline, oh, it turns out she's actually god of the Time Lords and was actually always a woman. It was predictable to anyone who saw the direction it was going. You can say that woke just means being hyper-aware of social injustices. All it means in the end is writing absolute guff and making sure that you know as the viewer that men are terrible and women are great. Gods, in fact. It's no wonder it got so tiring to so many people who don't buy that. Nobody thinks women are gods, unless there's something wrong with them. As our culture progresses or regresses, as might be the case, Doctor Who should and will always be a mirror of that. It's definitely not a mirror. It's such a mirror that it's completely dropped like a stone with the ratings. The series, an enduring pillar in the sci-fi genre, has always and will always be woke so that it can reflect our society back to us, otherwise what would be the point? I don't know, why are the best episodes in the series episodes that have absolutely nothing to do with that? I'm pretty sure The Empty Child barely had any mention of Nazis. It was more a, what could make this situation even creepier? Oh, have a war on and have it so that people have to be in confined spaces while bombs are dropping. You know, Nazis were barely brought up. Sci-fi, after all, has a responsibility to hold up a mirror to society, to comment on it, and to help us see things from a different viewpoint. What do you mean? Again, it's something that I'm going to have to constantly bring up. Why are all the most popular episodes of Doctor Who then not doing that? The magic of sci-fi is being able to escape our lives for a little bit and be immersed in another world, another time, or another civilization. And you think the best way to do that is to hold a mirror up to contemporary politics. Some issues, by the way, only lasted about 5 years. How timeless is that? Why do you think Dune is still popular? It's because it's telling a timeless story. It's not because Frank Herbert thought, man, the politics I've been living through in the 60s, that really needs a reflection on it. I will show a reflection of 60s America by having a story that is effectively about feudal houses and spice mining, with the story taking place on a desert with giant worms. That's a great way to hold up a mirror to American society. Honestly, this is nothing but claptrap. And yes, that does mean your favourite sci-fi novel, TV show, film or franchise is woke too. All of them cover topics from colonialism, to war, to gender, to LGBTQ+ issues, to capitalism and corporate greed, to technology and AI. It's kind of funny. They're confusing having any sort of theme with this is political commentary. No, sometimes people just choose a subject and write a story around it. Sometimes they have a message, sure. Sometimes that message is just something that appears kind of accidentally, kind of separate from the author's intentions. Dune actually, once again, a great example of this. So Herbert began researching Dune in 1959, bear in mind it was published in 65, and was able to devote himself wholeheartedly to his writing career because his wife was the breadwinner. The novel Dune was published in 65, which spearheaded the Dune franchise. The novel originated when he was assigned to write a magazine article about sand dunes in the Oregon Dunes near Florence, Oregon. He got over-involved and ended up with far more raw material than he actually needed for an article, and while the article was never actually written, it planted in Herbert the seed for what would become Dune. And another possible source of inspiration was his experience with psilocybin, according to mycologist Paul Stament's account, which describes Herbert's hobby of cultivating chanterelles, but his son, who wrote his biography, said that he was just passionate about culinary and mushrooms, not psilocybin. Long story short, Dune was effectively written because Frank Herbert got very obsessed with sand dunes and mushrooms. The political commentary and everything, and all other themes that come from it, yeah, it's not because Frank Herbert tried to write those into his story. He just wrote a story that was very compelling and had a setting that was clearly something that he knew an awful lot about, i.e. a sand planet. How about iconic sci-fi novels like Dune? Unbelievable. I can't believe I looked into that before this example. Left Hand of Darkness and Brave New World. Woke. No, I can assure you, Dune is definitely not woke. Brave New World as well, very much not woke. The critique of that is very much, oh my god, the modern world is, it's basically making paedophiles, forcing everyone to be a degenerate. It's very, very much not left-wing. Left Hand of Darkness, I've not read that, so I couldn't say. Modern classic novels like End This Game, Lilith's Brood, and Leviathan Wakes, woke. Again, I don't know them well enough to make a comment. Iconic sci-fi TV and film franchises like Star Trek and Star Wars, woke. Star Trek to some degree, possibly. Star Wars... Again, I know George Lucas goes on about the Vietnam War when he talks about it, but he only ever really uses that as an example. Again, he just wanted to write a film that was effectively big bad guy versus pucky underdogs, and he wrote that quite well. The reason he uses Vietnam is because, well, USA versus Vietnam, there's an obvious empire versus underdog there. YA dystopia franchises like Hunger Games and Divergent. Hunger Games very much was written as a political commentary, so I'll give you that, well done. Woke? No. Modern sci-fi phenomenons like Black Mirror and Severance, you guessed it, also woke. Everything's woke, so it's a pointless term the way you're using it. Well done. But we don't, and even then, using your own term on things, half these things aren't even woke, so what was the point? But we don't hear other sci-fi franchises being criticised for being woke quite as much as we hear about Doctor Who. Yes, that's because the writing quality went down, and in fact that's not even true. Star Wars is called woke, Star Trek's called woke. Marvel, that's been said it's going woke for ages. You can definitely call that sci-fi. It's just not true. Doctor Who gets the brunt of the attack along with every other big go woke, go broke story. As for why that is, a few reasons come to mind, but the most prominent is one that's easy and lazy excuse to jump to about an incredibly heavily scrutinised show. Wokeness is an easy excuse for times that Doctor Who is sloppily written, for when the ratings show a small drop, and for when there are rumours about Disney partnership coming to an end and more. No, it's also the fact that when people are asked, why don't you watch Doctor Who anymore, wokeness is typically brought up. When Doctor Who is sloppily written, and when the ratings show a small drop, and if Disney deal does come to an end, it certainly won't be because Gatwa wore a skirt in one scene, or because the Doctor kissed a man, or because there was a transgender character in a show. Actually, the transgender character does come up a lot whenever we talk about that special, so I actually would argue that is part of the reason. Because what's often condemned as Doctor Who's biggest failing is actually its biggest strength. Reflecting our culture at us and being so progressive and inclusive is the reason the show has endured for so long, because it's spoken to millions of people across the globe and given them a place to belong. Oh my god. There may well come a day, Doctor Who's future, when it needs to take a break. That day has certainly come before, and the world will not implode if it comes again. The cope's already in there. Last time it happened, it only ensured that the show came back stronger than ever. Yeah, because it was really well written. If it was written like it is now, it would never have been popular. I'm telling you now, whenever I ask people what their favourite Doctor Who episode is, it's always from either The Tenant or from the Eccleston era. Barely anyone says anything from the Matt Smith era, though it was pretty good, that era, to be fair. Nobody says anything from the Capaldi era, apart from possibly Heaven's Sent, which is an episode that only has Peter Capaldi in it. I'm just going to say that. So, take from that what you will. But if it does, those expecting to see wokeness erased from our screens will be in for a very rude awakening indeed. No, we won't. Trump got elected. It's already over. It's not 2016 anymore. The vibe shift is happening. It's completely over. I don't know what else to tell you. You can either keep your niche and have the show fail, or you can try and actually get me to like the show again. I'm probably only going to like it if the last 10 years of the show get absolutely retconned out of existence, and I do mean that. Anyway, I think I've covered this subject about as much as it needs to. I just wanted to make a video basically saying, oh, thank God it's going to be over. I never thought I'd say that about Doctor Who, but that all changed about 10 years ago when Peter Capaldi was in and the show took a notable drop in writing quality, and it's only got worse ever since. What were the best episodes? Weeping Angels, Slitheen, The Empty Child, pretty much all the Dalek and Cyberman episodes as well. Episodes that really didn't have much political commentary. Episodes that were largely just, tell you what, we will give you a weird, strange or creepy monster and the Doctor will have to do something about it. Go back to basics. That's all we ask. That's all we want. Instead, these days you get lectures on dyspraxia, racism, and things like that. You can have these themes in there if you really want. You can have them in there. Making them the core issue of a show, though, it's just been terrible to do that since. That's not to say that you can't write a good episode with these themes in, but they feel very off to a lot of Doctor Who fans. And all these new Doctor Who fans, well, they will follow you around as long as you have those themes in. And if that's all you want to write, well then, enjoy the failure, as I say. For me, though, I will keep enjoying the good Doctor Who episodes and be content that I know I'm probably not going to get any good new ones for some time yet. And possibly, yes, there will need to be a cancellation for it. But we need to be clear about one thing. Wokeness absolutely was a large driver in this being cancelled, or possibly cancelled, and certainly for the low ratings. It's absolutely part of it. People cite it all the time. People are voting with what they watch, and they don't want to watch Doctor Who anymore. Me included. Thanks for that. Right, I think that'll conclude the video. Showtime videos are as and when I can make them. Tonight there will be a stream over on the Worcester Club talking about the birth rate question. A question that I really don't care about, but we will still have a panel on, and we will still take it seriously, and we will still talk about it. There will certainly be interesting perspectives, mine, so I wouldn't worry too much about it. If you like what I did today, please do subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment telling me what you think. They are great ways to help out the channel, and they're completely free. If you think I deserve a little more, you can always send me a super thanks in the comments, or you can send a super chat on any of the streams that I do on this channel, or over on the Worcester Club as well. It's possible that I'll do a gaming stream this weekend, I don't know yet. I was playing Manor last week and had a good chat with some friends, so I may do that again, who knows. Anyway, with that, that's everything I had for you for today. Once again, thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.